welcome to GoaCast, the official podcast of Goa Fest, India's premier advertising festival. I'm Ankita Pava, your host for the 2024 season of GoaCast. Through this year's Goa Fest, we raise a toast to adaptability. We live in interesting times where not only the fittest, but also the most adaptable will truly thrive and survive. In this series, through intriguing conversations with industry leaders, we will see how the advertising media and the marketing fraternity is looking to propel our country to the next frontier of growth. Joining us in this episode is Mr. Rana Barua, President of the Advertising Club and Group CEO of Havas India, Southeast Asia, and North Asia. Hello, Mr. Rana. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. It's indeed a pleasure of mine to be with you in this podcast.
Of course, and before we really get indulged into our conversation, how are you?
Absolutely fine. Life has been good, can't complain. It's just very hot in the country. But otherwise, it's good, exciting times. There's a lot of things happening in our country. It's all good. Thank you for asking.
Great. So, the countdown has also begun, the annual rush, all the feelings, excitement are back as we come closer to the date of Goa Fest. So now
Yes.
reflecting on your experience from Goa Fest last year, what was your favorite aspect back then, and what's something that you are really looking forward to for this year?
See, for me, naturally, I wear two hats. I wear the hat of president of Ad Club, and I'm also vice president of 3SFI. So I can see it from both lenses. I can give you this answer. From President Ad Club is, I think, the most exciting and the most, thing that everybody looks forward is the participation bit. How many agencies are coming on board? What quality of agencies are coming on board? What is the jury? What kind of jury chairs are we getting on board? So I think that makes it very exciting as president of Ad Club, because for us in the Ad Club, it's all about awards and the kind of talent that can drive FEs or MVs and ABs. So for me, as president at club, ABs is extremely important. Participation is extremely important. So last year we had some fabulous participation. Lots of agencies came back. The kind of agencies which won the best medals or the maximum number of medals were the most awarded agency of the country or the most well-known agencies of the country. So those are the highs. And I think that high continues this year. We've got a fantastic jury for media. We've got a fabulous jury for the creative abbeys. And the naturally, I will not be able to divulge numbers right now, but the participation has been outstanding again. Huge numbers of participation. And if I see it from a 3SFI, it's about the way we look at it is the kind of content that happens, the kind of involvement or the engagement that happens, and the client participation. And we are definitely seeing more clients coming on board, participating, being part of all the evenings and the content days. So I'm quite confident even this year is going to be a very, very successful show. So I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So this year, the theme aims to shine a light on the resilience and innovative spirit of the advertising and marketing industries in an era defined by rapid change. So, with today's cutting edge technological advancements, I mean, especially technology, I mean, it's almost like every time there's a big shift in technology, there's a talk of doom and gloom in the creative industry. So, how do you see the industry evolving?
I think see the great aspect of the industry is that like you see the word resilience and all is because the entire the people, we are very resilient human beings. We are basically in an agency or an industry which is about ideas, and actually we adapt very quickly to changes and the kind of things that we see or the trends that change. So for us, what we are seeing is that if there are new, let's say, innovations happening, I think our industry adapts very quickly. And if we see any new trends or any new conversation, our agencies or industries adopt it very quickly. What I would definitely like to tell everyone is that if there is an industry which moves very quickly on adoption of innovations or technology or any form of conversations, it is the world of advertising, media, communication, because remember, we are the ones who are mostly talking to the consumers. So our engagement with the consumers is the more maximum. And we are also the bridge between the client or the brand and the consumer. So we are absolutely on top of most of these conversations and what's going on. So I'm happy with, the changes that are happening. I'm glad that we are adapting very fast to all the changes. And we are making those technical, changes that need to be done in the necessary environment to ensure we are ahead of times. So it's again, like I said, it's good times. It's nothing that you need to feel worried, or we are not worried about what is happening. We are actually moving with the times.
Very well said. And with everything changing so fast, new platforms and content formats are popping up all the time. So I think it has become crucial for even brands to stay on their toes, right? And with now consumer preferences also rapidly changing, how do you think brands can adapt their advertising strategies to avoid the usual pitfalls, such as lack of authenticity, misleading claims, or poor targeting, while still keeping it real and relevant for their audience?
So I think one of the key aspects that we at Havas naturally really believe in on this entire aspect is, you may hear different philosophies, many conversations from various people, but I think every single marketing guru will say that how do you keep your brand relevant to your targeted consumer? And for us, there is this concept, and there is a research and a study that we do year on year, and we've been doing it for, I think, close to 15 years. It's called the Meaningful Brands Report. It's a very, very hardwired global conversation that we do, which, if I had to give you the facts, it's about close to 100,000 people, over 1,300 brands across 10 markets, and maybe around 42 to 44 categories, which basically ensures how brands can stay relevant with the consumer and what are the kind of conversations and various aspects it measures. So in a nutshell, what it basically clearly says that, that if your brand, it doesn't have a purpose and doesn't have a relevance with your consumer and doesn't understand how it should keep itself going and keeping this conversation going, then most of the brands will not exist. So to the extent that we have a study where it says 73% of the brands will disappear today if your brands are not meaningful. 73%.
Wow.
Can you imagine? Why? Few days back, I was with a client and we were having a discussion, and the client asked me, he said, so how many brands do you use in this category? So we counted that in that particular category, we realized there are close to 18 or 20 brands. After some time, we realized that at best, we only use two or three. So those two or three were the most meaningful and the most relevant, not because they advertise the most or because you always think about them, because they have built a relationship with the consumer. So they build a story, they build a relationship, they have an engagement, which basically drives home to the point that if you're meaningful and if you are absolutely engaging with the consumer, then this brand will survive, no matter whatever the environment be, no matter whatever the ecosystem be, no matter whatever happens. And you need to innovate with times.
Yeah.
So if you see some of the global brands that we are talking about, some of the largest brands, whether it's a sneaker brand or whether it's a toothpaste brand or whether it's whether it's brands like FMCG, or if you look at brands like banking, insurance, the reason you start engaging with a bank or a certain sneaker brand or a certain telephone brand or a mobile brand is because your brand trust goes up, because it's a very meaningful role. So no matter what, it's coming back to the point that the more meaningful you are in the consumer's life,
Hmm.
the more strong your relationship is with the brand.
Correct,
And it's
correct.
quite fascinating, and it continues to be that. It continues to be that. You cannot change that aspect of the game at all. I need to trust you. I need to believe you. I need to have a relationship with you.
Of course, of course. So while we are on all these categories and discussing brands, we would love to hear from you a real world example, a recent campaign, or any project that you may know of, where effective adaptability made all the difference, and beyond the success, what were some of the valuable lessons that you learned from that entire experience?
No, so again, it's naturally a very. I'll try to keep it simple because otherwise it can become a very long answer for this. I think I'll keep it simple by saying there are two stories in my life or two brands. One in Singapore, where the market which I look after, which was done by my agency out there, which is the creative agency is called Block J Havas, and they did it something for for JBL Quantum, which is a very highly awarded earphone. This whole technology which we have created for the visually impaired. We've created something for how can a visually impaired person play with headphones and they can play the game. And also the kind of campaign that we built, I'm happy to share the work with you. I will ask somebody from the team to share. You can see the work. That work is really being spoken about because it's something which A, it's meaningful. A, it's B, it's solving a reason. It's creating something which is more purposeful than the others. And I'm not going so, and it's definitely solving a problem, you know. So what I'm basically trying to say, you don't need to genuinely have a only a purpose-led campaign or something which kind of does. But what I'm saying is the moment you create relevance, you start building something, it starts becoming a very important part. I have another campaign which I'm quite fond of, which everybody may not have talked about, but for Reckitt, we handle many brands. One of them is Mortein. And one of the interesting things we did for Mortein was that during Diwali, this whole concept is that during Diwali, people tend to, there is this whole tradition that you open your doors because you believe Goddess Lakshmi is going to come in.
Yeah.
Har sham ko the Lakshmi will come, you open the doors. Now, what happens is when you open the doors, what else come? Mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes. Yeah.
So the Diwali then becomes a very dangerous festival if we had to say that keep your doors open because Mortein can guard you. Mortein can't guard you because Mortein works in closed doors, right? So one of the interesting ideas with the team thought with the marketing team was they actually created diyas with Mortein. So when you were putting those diyas outside, you were actually lighting up Mortein to open up the doors. Now it's a small little testing product innovation has happened. We tested it in certain markets. We did it. They're planning to do much more mass production about the whole thing because it was a tried and tested model. Now, if I do something like this, even if it starts small, it starts building an engagement or a relationship, So if you look at share the load, if you look at conversations like this, which have become such big talked about conversations, or if you look at Dove and the entire beauty, the challenging the beauty paradigm that all women don't need to be necessarily just beautiful to be Dove women versus the whole concept of look at Nike about the
Hmm.
concept of sneakers and running and then getting into technology about the entire watch running the entire thing. If you start looking, it's everywhere there is a purpose,
Yeah.
everywhere there is technology, everywhere there is an innovation, and then you start getting into some high order advertising, as we keep saying, which suddenly makes it more meaningful, more talked about, versus many ads that if I ask you, do you remember yesterday what ads you saw? You're going to be blank. You'll probably remember one or two, but it's not left you with a residual impact. So for me, it's always about a lot of storytelling. Is there a product innovation or a conversation? Is there anything interesting that leaves you with some bit of a genuine consideration that this is trying to make a change? Then it's good. And especially if there is a behavioral change or a societal change, it's fantastic.
Absolutely. So, sir, coming back to Goa Fest has consistently gone above and beyond to curate speakers who are among the best
Yeah.
in their fields, correct? And,
Yes.
which has led it to become a go-to knowledge hub for everyone in the advertising fraternity. So now, as we
Yeah.
gear up to explore adaptability this year, what are some of the discussions you think are absolutely essential and shouldn't be missed by the potential attendees at the fest?
So we haven't disclosed the content yet. I'm part of the committee which is,
Give us a sneak
finalizing the.
peek.
I cannot give you any sneak peek at all because it will come out soon. But yeah, you're right about the fact that we are, like I said, remember, I started this whole question Q&A with you by saying we are probably one of the industries which moves the fastest in
Correct.
adaptability and adoption of newer conversations and all. We don't wait. So yes, you are going to hear newer conversations like AI. You will hear about influencer marketing. You will hear about creative effectiveness. You're going to hear conversations on sports and the entire impact of the kind of larger conversations. So the content is naturally about absolutely what's happening around you. So it's not about anything that will kind of bore you or the content is not supposed to do. So some of the people who are going to come on board are some of the most senior marketing people. Some of them are absolutely fantastic entrepreneurs who've joined startups. Then there are people from the highest levels of sports field or some very interesting celebrities who are doing some very phenomenal stuff, which is not just being part of the industry or just doing, what we are saying. And also then there are stories about very senior people or people from the content world, how do they keep themselves relevant? What do they do? What kind of storytelling or conversations are doing? So I think it's going to kind of touch upon most of the conversations and communication points that you keep hearing about or read about or listen, and that's what is going to keep it more engaging. And I think again, we are the ones who naturally keep moving the needle faster. So I have seen the content that is going to roll out. I've seen the kind of people who are going to be coming for the Goa Fest this time. I have seen the kind of the panels that we are discussing. They're probably world class again. Very good stuff. Yeah.
And that's exactly what we wanted to hear. So amazing.
Thank you.
And thank you so much, sir, for taking up the time to have this conversation and share your insights before the big day that we all are waiting
Thank you
for.
so much. Thank you. See you soon at the Goa Fest. Thank you.
And for all the viewers, don't forget to mark your calendars for Goa Fest 2024. We'll see you there.